Hey everybody, it is Rick Janson over here at EXP, and every day I host a show with Lee Jennings, who can't make it today, and that's okay. He's out taking care of some other stuff. But I every day, the point of this, and I'm hijacking Lee's feed, so hi Lee's friends. But every day, our point with this is we're hopping on Clubhouse, and Clubhouse, if you're not aware of it, is kind of like a live interactive Twitter feed or audio feed, podcast feed. Podcast might be the better parallel, but none of it's recorded, right? So you can talk with Richard Branson and Tim Harris and Glenn Sanford, all these famous people. They're just out there pontificating, sharing, but none of it's recorded, right? You can talk to Elon Musk, none of it's recorded. So when Lee and I are out there and we're going to real estate master classes, and we're going to top producer classes and coaching classes and icon producers classes, we realize there's all this knowledge that's being shared, and we'd like to share it with people who can't necessarily hop on Clubhouse, either because they don't have an iPhone, they don't have an invitation yet, or they don't have the time, quite frankly. I mean, who has an hour to do anything these days, right? So we've said, hey, we're going to dedicate 15 minutes every day, Monday through Friday, to sharing knowledge. And yesterday, man, Lee just downloaded just a ton of stuff about how to use technology to sell homes, how to use technology to generate leads. And it is absolutely phenomenal stuff. Definitely go back and watch yesterday's episode. We're also talking and sharing moving forward a live lead generation class, how to get new listings in a low inventory environment. On April 21st, we have a free webinar hosted by Sean Kokoska. If you don't know Sean sold over 1,000 homes worth $1 billion. And actually, I think it's 4,000 homes worth over $1 billion. He co-wrote the MAPS program. He's president of MAPS globally for Keller Williams, co-wrote the BOLD program, co-wrote the One Thing with Gary Keller. No longer with Keller Williams. He's now an icon coach. But he's helped us aggregate and put together a group of coaches like Eric Orland, who's gone from, just being a real estate coach and a top coach at that, to building a passive income stream of over, approaching $500,000 a year in under 9 months. He's brought on Brittany Brands, who's selling $44 million in real estate in Denver. She's going to share all her tips and tricks. Kevin Yoder, a really awesome coach and top producer over in Michigan. We got Orlando Montiel. He's coached thousands of students, I think over 4,500 students. He's written a book. He hosts a daily podcast in Miami. He is a spokesperson for MasterCard in Mexico. I mean, the guy's a big deal. I'm going to be on the show, and all of these coaches, all of these top producers are going to be sharing with you how to get a listing in a low inventory environment. Now, if you go back a couple of days, one of the things Lee and I talked about is that, yeah, it's a low inventory environment, which means there's very few active listings, right? But that doesn't mean there's no homes for sale, right? The volume of new listings is up. The volume of pendings is up. The volume of closings is up. So we actually have more going on, more homes selling, and fewer homes just actively go on the market, which means there's high buyer absorption of the inventory. So a couple things I want to throw down today. One is that nationally, I just read a stat, nationally, 36% of all homes sold within 24 hours. Think about that. Nationally, the entire country, 36% went under contract in the first 24 hours. Now, my personal opinion is you're doing that client an extreme disservice. You need to learn to manage the listing process. In a high inventory, in a high demand environment, it is key that you pump the brakes a little bit. Yeah, you want to get all those people in there. You want to compress the showings. You want social proof that this property is popular. And then you want to massage the offers you have. You need to tease them, work with them, talk with the lenders, talk with the agent. Get terms that work for your seller. It's not all about just waiving the inspection and waiving the appraisal, picking a new closing date, getting 60 days post-closing occupancy. It's not about just those little perks for your seller. It's also about making sure the deal crosses the finish line, right? Making sure you have a buyer that's actually going to make it all the way to closing, so you don't get to like 5 days before closing and someone backs out for loan conditions or an appraisal gap that they're not really happy with. They said they would cover it, but they're really not. You want to make sure that you weed out all that strong buyer demand, that you start working them against each other, right? That you take some time. These buyers are anxious, right? A new home could pop up on the market and you could lose one. But what you really want to do is you want to take the bottom of the funnel. You want to make the bottom of the funnel as big as possible, right? The most number of buyers, eyeballs on the property. Then you need to weed it out for the qualified buyers. Then you need to weed it out for the ones who are pre-approved, right? Or can pay cash. And you've vetted them. You've looked at their finances. You've talked to the lender. Then you need to start playing these people off against each other, okay? Now I'm going to quiet down something that's a little loud here in the background. Sounded like I had a cat purring over here, but I don't, and that wasn't a cat. So I'm going to quiet that down. So what you need to do then is you need to take these buyers, now that they've been pre-approved, that you've talked to the lender, you've talked to the CPA, you know they have cash in the bank, and now it's a matter of really massaging out that extra $5,000, $10,000, $20,000 that allows you to go to a listing appointment and really honestly look your prospective seller in the eyes and say, hey, I often negotiate over a fair market value price. We go to market at fair market value, but I often am able to negotiate so far above that my services are essentially free. So while my goal, Mr. and Mrs. Seller, in talking to you, in listing your property, is not to make 6%, it's not to make 5% or 7%, whatever my commission might be, right? That's not my goal. My goal is to maximize the dollars I put in your pocket. And if I can do that, does it really matter if I charge 10%? Now, one of the lines I love, this is from Pure Gold from David Torgerson up in Montana. Shout out to him. He says he goes to a listing appointment and he puts down in the listing contract for commission. Someone says, what's the commission going to be? He's like, we'll cover that in a little bit. He gives his whole value proposition, and now the client's ready to sign up, right? And so he goes to them and he says, hey, look, they say, what's your commission? And he writes down 5, 6, 7. And he says, you pick. And the client looks at him and he's like, well, what's the difference between 5, 6, and 7%? And he says, nothing. Do I get anything extra? And he says, nope. And he waits. Now, the majority choose 6 as opposed to asking him for a discount. But there are some who choose 7. And the ones who choose 7 ask him this question. They say, what do I get for an extra percent? He says, well, do you think that the people you pay more work a little bit harder for you? They're here to feed their families. They're here to make a living. And if you value their services and you show and demonstrate that you value their services, do you think those people, generally speaking, work a little bit harder for you? Do you think you get more out of them and better service and higher quality, more attention? I'll give you the same stuff either way, but it's up to you. And he finds them choosing 7% time and time again, because they want that extra level of attention. They want the extra level of service, and they have voluntarily opted to increase their commission in a discount commission environment. So I wanted to talk to you a little bit about that 36% selling in 24 hours and why I think that is a disservice. The other thing I think is a disservice is and I'm going to go on a little bit of a soapbox here, is the submit highest and best by Monday, right? Or submit highest and best by 7 o'clock on Sunday, and we're going to review all offers on Monday. Well, if you have this arbitrary cutoff at 7 p.m. and a buyer wasn't able to get in and someone wasn't able to submit an offer, that person might have been 10, 15, 20 extra $1,000 for your seller. Now, you might say, well, I'm trying to be fair and cut it off at 7 p.m. on a Sunday. But what does this really do? Let's break it down. So on the one hand, highest and best, right? Well, if you just submit your highest offer, then it's your highest offer. Well, no one really wants to be a chump. Can we all agree on that? So anybody will outbid another person by 5,000, but nobody wants to outbid the next person by 50,000. Do you hear what I'm saying on that? So nobody wants to be a chump. So they're never really going to give you their highest and best right out of the gate, because they don't want to look like a fool who submitted 200,000 over list when 150,000 over list would have won it. That's where escalation clauses were birthed, right? Hey, I'm going to pay 5,000 more than the next guy, 10,000 more than the next guy. That's where that came up. And so people tried to hedge their bets because they don't want to look like fools in that environment, right? So they don't really put forth their highest and best. But what it does is in the 20 buyers that are submitting an offer on that property, it creates tremendous fear of loss. Fear of loss creates this super anxious environment. Now you've got, let's say, out of 20 people, half of them are couples. So you've got 30 people and 20 brokers all sitting around anxious, worried. Did I bid enough? Did I bid too much? And there's all this fear and anxiety in the housing market that the highest and best just put out there. I think just socially and emotionally, that's unfair as a practice, right? Why not take the extra time? Say, hey, look, we would prefer to have all offers submitted by 7 o'clock. We're going to start reviewing, and we reserve the right to accept an offer at any time. But so the people who abide by that, hey, you've got an edge, right? We could just see one and say, done, go for it. But someone who might be late to the party, someone who wants to come in Monday morning, someone who wants to come in at midnight on Sunday, they still have a chance to participate. And that agent should be able to call up the listing agent and engage in a conversation. Where's the sandbox? We want to play. How big, how far over list are you? Are you 20, 30, 40, 50,000 over list? Can you give me an idea? Can you help me, coach me to get a winning bid in, right? Because as a listing agent, if you ask your seller for the permission to share with the buyers and you're transparent, then people know, just like an auction, just like on eBay, exactly where the next person is, right? So you're 500,000. Well, maybe I'll come in at 525. Okay, you're 525. I'm going to come in at 540, right? And you're not just going to chump them by $1 and say, hey, 526. But what you aren't allowing to do is you're allowing the market to have transparency, to shift and push it, and let people know, hey, you know what? You are only 5 or 10,000 over the next person. Multiple buyers at the same price determines fair market value. The list price was obviously way too low. Don't use that as a reference point. This is where you need to be to win. And that's just kind of the stuff where when you start giving advice to your sellers and you start coaching your sellers, you start taking control of the process with the buyer agents, and you start managing it. What if it takes you an extra 3 days to go through the offers and get buyers playing against each other? What if it took you that extra 3 days, right? You're still maximizing the return to the seller to whom you have the fiduciary duty, right? And if you're able to milk out an extra $10, $20, $30, $40,000 for the seller, guess who loves you? Guess who writes you a great testimonial on Zillow, on Google, on all the other places? Guess who is willing to give you a 15 or 30-second video testimonial because you helped them in a time of need, take the stress out of the situation, pump the brakes, sift through all of the mad interest. And guess what? If you just say highest and best and take that on a Sunday, are you any better than a for sale by owner, right? Excuse me. Can you say that you added value? No, you put it in the MLS and you sold the home. Quite frankly, I'm going to shock a few people here, but I think any drunk monkey can sell a house right now, right? You pop it up on the MLS, it sells. That's if it's at the right price. That's not the game. That's not the value we add. That's not how you defend having a commission above $300 and against Rex and the Homey and the flat fee firms, right? Where you're going to compete and where you're going to add value is demonstrating that historically you have been able to go from, not only price a home fairly, still generate 20 offers, and then massage those offers to have 3 buyers, all competing at that top price to get to the winning spot. But in doing so, in creating that competition, in nurturing that competition, that is where you've added value. That is where you've paid for yourself, right? Because if you sell a $500,000 house for $500,000, yeah, maybe these firms like Homey and Rex are right. Maybe you don't deserve the commission, right? Maybe it should just be $1,500. But if you can sell a $500,000 house for $525 or $550, and you took the stress out, and you managed the appraisal, and you got through the inspection of the sewer and the roof, and the broken doorknob and the broken dishwasher, and all the things I'm dealing with on a property right now. If you've been able to save your client money and stress and help them across the finish line to achieve their goals, that's where you're going to add value as a realtor. So anyway, go to iconproducers.com, register for the April 21st event, how to generate new listings in a low inventory environment. And we'll see you again tomorrow. Thanks. These were the ramblings of Realtor Rick Janson. And we look forward to having Lee back soon. Talk to you soon. Bye-bye.